This week, $116 million in Bitcoin walked out of the safest place you can keep it: hardware wallets, air-gapped, offline, sitting in drawers. The same week, IBM announced its quantum computer solved a problem no ordinary computer can match, and, for the first time, verified it. And Jim Cramer went on TV and said he is selling all of his Bitcoin, because quantum computers will crack it within 3 years. Your feed has already connected those dots. The quantum heist has begun. It has not. In the next 10 minutes, what actually emptied those wallets, the answer took 0 qubits, and how far away the real quantum threat is. That distance is measurable. We're going to measure it. Welcome to Metacortex, Technology and Money, and what they mean for your investments. We explain how things work. Nobody here tells you what to buy or sell. And every number tonight, including the scary ones, is sourced and linked below. Rewind the week, because the order of events is the whole illusion. Thursday, July 30th. Bitcoin starts draining out of Coldcard hardware wallets, the paranoid grade kind, the ones that never touch the internet. By the weekend it's past 5,200 addresses, $116 million, and still counting. Monday morning, IBM announces the first verified quantum advantage in history. Monday evening, Jim Cramer tells America he's selling all of his Bitcoin before the quantum computers arrive. 3 stories, 1 weekend. Your feed stacked them into a single headline: the quantum heist is here. It's the obvious read. It is also completely wrong, and the proof is in how the theft actually worked. So how do you rob a vault that is never online? You don't crack it. You discover its combination was never random. A cold card is an air-gapped wallet. It generates your seed phrase, the 12 words that are your Bitcoin, inside the device, from its own hardware randomness chip. Except, in March of 2021, one line of firmware changed, and the device quietly stopped asking that chip. It fell back to a software generator whose starting point was public, hard-coded constants, published on GitHub, for anyone to read. The result: seed phrases that looked random but carried roughly 40 bits of real surprise instead of 128. 5 years later, somebody noticed. Every weak seed could be recreated from the outside. No device touched, no malware, no phishing. Just replay the same broken math, list the words it must have picked, and sweep the coins. Qubits used: 0. 40 bits. Let me make that number physical. Randomness is measured in bits, and every bit you lose cuts the guessing work in half. 128 bits is 2, doubled 128 times, a number so large that every computer on Earth, guessing since the Big Bang, would not scratch it. 40 bits is about 1.1 trillion possibilities. A trillion sounds safe. It is not. Modern hardware chews through a trillion guesses like a weekend project, which is exactly what the attackers did. Quietly, at scale, in 4 waves, across more than 5,200 addresses. So the scariest sentence in this story has nothing to do with quantum computers. It's this: the safest wallet in crypto shipped 5 years of guessable randomness, and nobody noticed until the coins moved. Now the other headline, because to be fair to the fear, IBM's announcement is real, and it matters. Together with the University of Chicago, IBM ran a computation on 70 logical qubits. Logical is the word that counts. Error-corrected qubits, thousands of fragile physical ones woven into each dependable one. The machine finished in 15 minutes, a problem the best classical methods cannot reproduce. And, the genuinely new part, the result was verified, not just claimed. Error rates 10 times lower than the raw hardware. And IBM is not treating this as a stunt. $10 billion committed, a fault-tolerant machine promised by 2029. So no, quantum computing is not vapor. Which leaves exactly one question that matters for Bitcoin. How far is 70 from what code breaking actually takes? That's not philosophy. That's arithmetic. Next. So put both numbers on one chart. Logical qubits demonstrated this week, the best ever shown in public. 70. Logical qubits needed to run Shor's algorithm against one Bitcoin key, using Google's own best-case circuit, published this spring, the most optimistic serious estimate in the field, about 1,200, and the older standard estimate, the one the field used for years, said roughly 2,300. 17 times short, on the optimists' own numbers. And understand what that chart is hiding in your favor. Those 17x are not 17 equal steps. Every added logical qubit costs thousands more physical qubits, colder fridges, better error correction. The record on that chart took 2 decades to reach 70. But honestly, qubit count is the small half of the problem. The bigger half is operations. It is not enough to have 1,200 logical qubits, you have to run them, step after step, without the error correction collapsing. IBM's verified computation executed 468 of the hardest error-corrected operations. Breaking one Bitcoin key needs roughly 70 million of them, in a row, flawlessly. Watch the bar. At this scale, 468 doesn't light a single pixel. That's not me being dramatic, that is the actual ratio, drawn honestly. This is why 3 years is not analysis, it's a feeling. The gap between this week's record and a Bitcoin breaking machine is about 5 orders of magnitude of sustained engineering. Not impossible, not tomorrow, measurable, and we just measured it. Now hold that measurement next to the week's loudest voice. Cramer told viewers to be paranoid, put the threat at 3 years, and said he's selling every coin. Here's what happened next. The price barely moved, and trading desks started joking about buying, because inverse Cramer has been a running gag for years. But under the meme sits a serious number. Capriol Investments estimates the market already prices a roughly 30% quantum fear discount into Bitcoin, already, today. And notice that number cuts both ways. The same analysts argue that if Bitcoin's developers commit to a credible post-quantum roadmap, that discount starts to close, their case for a 10% jump. So the loudest sell of the week and the boldest buy case of the week are built on the same fear, and neither one measures the distance. You've now seen it measured. What you do with that is yours. We don't do buy or sell here. So is Bitcoin simply safe? No. Here is the honest version of the quantum risk, the one we mapped in our first episode, before it was news. When you spend Bitcoin, you reveal your address's public key, and old-style addresses revealed it up front. Count those up and about 6.9 million Bitcoin sit in addresses with exposed public keys, roughly 32% of everything that exists, worth around $470 billion today. Satoshi's own coins are in that pile. Those are the coins a future quantum machine could actually attack. And the timing is nastier than it sounds, because an attacker can record the blockchain today and crack it years later. Which is why the real fix is not a patch. It is a migration. Every owner moving coins to quantum-safe addresses before the gap closes. And you? A fresh, unreused address keeps its public key hidden until you spend, strictly safer, today, for free. It's a clock. It is not a bomb. The lessons, bigger than this week. Every hack has a mechanism. Find it before you accept the narrative, because the boring bug beats the sci-fi threat almost every time. Cold storage is only as strong as its random numbers. The vault doesn't matter if the combination was predictable. When quantum headlines land, count logical qubits and gates, not adjectives. The gap is public and measurable. Fear gets priced. A 30% discount means the market has already voted on quantum, long before Cramer did. And the real quantum deadline is a migration, 6.9 million coins that have to move, which makes it a governance problem wearing a physics costume. The whole story, in 30 seconds. $116 million left Coldcard hardware wallets, because a 2021 firmware bug generated seeds with 40 bits of randomness instead of 128, guessable. 0 qubits involved. IBM's milestone is real, 70 verified logical qubits, but a Bitcoin breaking machine needs about 1,200, running 70 million flawless operations. 5 orders of magnitude of engineering away. Cramer's fear is already priced in, about 30%, says Capriol. And the true quantum risk is a migration problem. 6.9 million coins with exposed public keys that must move before the gap closes. Watch the qubit charts, not the headlines. If this week made you want the full map, how Shor's algorithm actually opens a Bitcoin key, which addresses fall first, and what the migration to quantum-safe Bitcoin looks like, that is our very first episode, on screen now. This week is exactly why we made it. Next to it, what happens when Washington bans your robot vacuum? If this saved you from panic selling into a headline, or panic buying one, subscribe. Technology and money, mechanisms before narratives, and the week the logical qubit chart actually moves, we'll be here to measure it again.